The music was soft, jazz maybe, but it was the kind of soft that cuts when no one's talking. Everyone else was. Couples swirling around the stone patio, crystal glasses clinking, lights strung up in gold like some kind of curated Instagram fantasy. And in the middle of it, I stood with my wife dancing. Correction, trying to dance. She hated when I tried, said it made me look like a substitute teacher at prom. I thought maybe tonight would be different. New blazer, shoes polished, even trimmed the gray out of my beard like she used to like. It was her friend's birthday after all. Thought maybe she'd meet me halfway. I spun her once, awkward, sure, but I caught her hand, leaned in, tried to kiss her cheek. And that's when it happened. She twisted away like I was radioactive and smirked, not just to me, but to the whole damn group standing 5 feet away watching. I'd rather kiss my dog than kiss you. Laughter, the kind that doesn't just bounce off walls, but crawls inside your spine and stays there. I looked around. Her friends, most of them younger couples, beautiful in that smug suburban way, could barely contain themselves. I saw one guy elbow another, one woman covered her mouth like it was just so funny. And that was the moment, the exact second I felt something in me snap, not with rage, not with tears, with clarity. So I smiled, just a little, looked right at her and said, "Funny, he's the only one you're not cheating on." Silence. It hit the patio like a power outage. Even the music felt like it pulled back in shock. She blinked. Twice, I could see her calculating, who knows. Maybe she thought I'd break down. Maybe she thought I'd apologize. Maybe she thought I'd do what I always did, take the jab, keep the peace. Instead, I set my drink down on the table next to the little plate of imported olives no one was eating, gave a polite nod to the host, Cheryl, I think, and walked out. No drama, no yelling. I just left her there, standing in a gold-lit garden, surrounded by laughter that had already curdled. That was the last time most of them ever saw me. By the way, if you've gotten this far and you're listening without subscribing, consider hitting that button. It really helps the team keep bringing you stories like this, and you'd be surprised how many listen without ever subscribing. Thanks for being here. Back to the night. I didn't go home. I didn't go to a hotel either. I had something better. A key. One she didn't know existed. I'd rented a place 3 towns over under a different name, Daniel Cross. It was furnished, clean, and anonymous. A week prior, I'd already stocked it with the basics: toiletries, clothes, a second laptop, backup hard drive, and the 3 notebooks that held everything I needed to disappear. Because you see, that kiss she rejected, that wasn't spontaneous. That was the final test. I had to be sure, really sure, before I pulled the trigger. You think I just guessed about the affair? Please, her affair was as subtle as a brick through a windshield. She got sloppy, different perfume when she got back from errands, overcompensating with compliments when I didn't ask for them. She even changed the passcode on her iPad and made a whole scene about needing more privacy as she got older. But what sealed it for me? Not a text, not a voicemail, something worse. I found a list, not written, not digital, a printed checklist she kept in a folder labeled Summer To-Dos. 3rd page, buried between reseed lawn and cell patio heater. Book Charleston trip while at G. Tell, D it's work-related. Bring different heels for each day. Remember allergy meds, G's cat. G. I didn't know who G was, but he wasn't me. So I watched. A week later, she left for Charleston, claimed it was a regional HR summit, took the red suitcase I never liked because it holds more shoes. She was gone 4 days. I didn't call once. Instead, I visited the storage unit. Rented under my name 6 months prior, organized, labeled, every document, every photo, every scan of everything she ever signed, including the prenup, including the email backup she thought was deleted, including my audio recordings. And on the 5th day, while she was still gone, I filed the first notice of separation. Private, no public record, just a timestamp, just proof. All I needed now was one final humiliation, something undeniable, something public. And she handed it to me wrapped in gold string lights and cheap white wine right there in front of her smug little friends. What comes next? That's when things get colder, because I didn't just leave my wife. I removed her from my reality. And the worst part, she never saw it coming. She woke up at 6:14 a.m. to the usual hum of the espresso machine cycling in the kitchen, the way Daniel always set it to start 10 minutes before her alarm. but the kitchen was empty. The cup he usually set out for her with a sugar cube and spoon beside it wasn't there. At first, she thought maybe he had gone for a jog. He'd been talking about needing more air lately. But then she saw the ring, dead center on her laptop, right on the dining table where she'd left it the night before. Daniel's wedding band. Simple gold, a faint groove from 25 years of wearing it. It wasn't placed casually. It was set, like punctuation. She picked it up and stared at the circle, dumbfounded. Checked the front door. Locked. No car in the driveway. No note. No text. No missed calls. Just gone. By 7:30, she was calling his phone straight to voicemail, no ringtone. By 8 o'clock, she tried texting. Green bubble. Then she checked Find My iPhone offline. All devices removed from the shared plan. Daniel's name didn't even appear on the screen anymore. At 9:15, she logged into the bank. Or tried to. Access denied. She blinked. Tried again. Joint account frozen. Her personal credit card active. But the grocery order she'd placed the night before? Canceled. It didn't make sense. He was gone, but the lights still worked. The heat was on. Her calendar still showed the mortgage had been auto-paid that morning. Water bill. 2. She checked the thermostat. The temperature settings had been adjusted for efficiency. A small thing. But one Daniel would have done. It was like being ghosted by a meticulous accountant. She sat on the edge of the couch, still in her silk robe, phone in hand, staring at the void of his absence. The party had ended less than 12 hours ago. She'd gone home in a huff, slamming the door behind her like a teenager, assuming he'd beat her home so she could lay into him for ruining the vibe. Instead, the house was spotless and empty. A ping from her group chat, Emily. So, is Daniel okay? That was awkward. Rita. Girl, what was that? Did you two rehearse that line? Mina. Wait, was he joking or was that real? I didn't even know y'all had problems. She stared at the screen, heart pounding, before finally typing. You guys, he hasn't come home. Seen. No one replied. She tried calling his office next. No answer. She left a voicemail, then tried again an hour later. Nothing. Just the same dead tone, like the line didn't even exist anymore. She finally got through to his assistant's cell around noon. Oh, he resigned last week, the woman said, sounding nervous. Didn't he tell you? Her stomach dropped. No, what do you mean resigned? I just meant, I thought you knew. Sorry, I really have to go. Click. She stood frozen in the kitchen, phone dangling in her hand like it had betrayed her. That afternoon, her best friend Jenna swung by with overpriced smoothies and a distracted laugh. Well, at least he's still paying the bills, Jenna joked, gesturing toward the porch lights kicking on automatically at sunset. Classic Daniel, drama-free even when disappearing. But that was the thing. It wasn't drama. It was surgical. No slammed doors. No angry voicemails. No trail of wounded pride or vengeance. Just a clean deletion, as if he had hit backspace on an entire marriage and was now editing his life with a steadiness she didn't recognize. And still, everything worked. The fridge was full. The apps hadn't logged her out. Her car lease was still paid, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was standing on a hollow stage set, and someone had already pulled the crew and lighting. At 2:00 a.m., she checked the garage again. His tool set was gone. Not stolen. Removed. Methodically. A few shirts still hung in the closet. But the photo albums, the leather-bound journals he kept since college, missing. She lifted her pillow and found the faint outline of his cologne on the sheets beneath. One last trace fading fast. Then came the next realization. He hadn't left her. He'd retired her. Quietly. Completely. And he was just getting started. The next morning, she sat on the edge of their bed, scrolling through old texts, hoping to find something, anything that would explain this. There wasn't even a breadcrumb. The last message from Daniel was a receipt he forwarded from their dry cleaner. Before that, a thumbs-up emoji to her dinner plans. Nothing cryptic, nothing emotional. Just the kind of bland, predictable exchanges you expect after 25 years of shared routines and cold leftovers. That's what scared her. Men don't just disappear. Not men like Daniel, who had never missed a payment, never raised his voice, never took spontaneous trips without a calendar invite. So she did what anyone would do when things feel out of control. She called their accountant straight to voicemail. She waited a few minutes, tried again. Still no answer. Left a polite, then a firm message. It's urgent. I need to speak with you regarding Daniel. Please call me back as soon as possible. Nothing. She tried their attorney next. The same man who had handled their house paperwork, their prenup, Daniel's parents' estate. A man she once referred to as boring but reliable. The phone rang and rang. No answer. She stared at the phone like it was a magic 8-ball, refusing to give her answers. Her mind leapt ahead. What if he's hurt? What if he's been mugged? What if this isn't about me at all? But those comforting lies didn't last long. By noon, she was behind the wheel, speeding toward Daniel's office. A 20-minute drive she'd made 100 times. Only now her palms were sweaty and her chest had that pressure, like a balloon expanding too fast. The parking lot was empty. Middle of a Thursday, and not a single car in his company's 3 reserved spots. The signage on the door was gone. A faded square where his nameplate used to be. She tugged at the glass door. Locked, peered through it. The lights were off. The front desk was bare. No receptionist, no phones. Just a rolling chair pushed back from the desk and 2 wires dangling where a monitor used to be. She banged once on the glass, hoping maybe a janitor or someone inside would appear. Nothing. Then she noticed the paper, folded, taped on the inside of the door. Tiny font. Suite 412, lease terminated as of July 1st. Please direct all correspondence to forwarding address on file. It was October. She hadn't known. He hadn't told her. Not a word. She stood there, frozen, her reflection staring back at her in the glass, mouth slightly open like she was trying to understand a language she hadn't heard before. When she got back in her car, she dialed Jenna. I'm starting to think something's really wrong, she said. Daniel's office is gone, like cleared out, lease terminated months ago. There was a pause on the other end. Then Jenna, more careful now. I mean, did he ever say anything, like, about retiring, downsizing? No, nothing. I would have known. Would she? Another silence. Then Jenna cleared her throat. I probably shouldn't say this, but my husband saw him a couple months back. At a storage place. You know, over near the marina? A storage place? Yeah, said he was loading boxes, big ones, looked like he was moving his whole life. Didn't say much, just waved and kept going. Her grip tightened on the steering wheel. You're just telling me this now? I didn't think it meant anything. I assumed maybe he was organizing stuff. He loves to organize. You said so yourself. No, this wasn't organization. This was evacuation. Her heart thumped harder, a rhythm of dread she couldn't turn off. She opened her glove compartment. Nothing of his. She checked her trunk. Empty. She sped home and flung open the hallway closet. Gone. His winter coat, the tool belt he kept hanging on the far hook, the fishing gear he never used but always promised he would. Vanished. Not stolen. Removed. Thoughtfully. Quietly. Even the ceramic mug he used every morning, the one from their honeymoon in Bar Harbor with the stupid lobster pun, was gone from the cupboard, as if he couldn't stand leaving behind even the smell of his breath. She didn't know what scared her more, that he had vanished or that he had planned it so meticulously that she didn't even notice him go, because now it was obvious. This wasn't a tantrum. This wasn't a man cooling off. This was premeditated, and she was already steps behind. She walked into the law office wearing oversized sunglasses and a scarf like she was ducking paparazzi. There weren't any, of course, just a receptionist who barely looked up, and a water cooler making that awkward gulping sound as she signed in. Her attorney, Andrew Marston, had been with her family for years, wrote her parents' trust, handled the paperwork on the beach house, even advised her once when Daniel wanted to refinance the mortgage and she thought it felt suspicious. Back then, she'd rolled her eyes and said, he's too boring to plot anything. Andrew didn't smile when he saw her, just stood, gestured her into the conference room and shut the door. I got your message, she started, dropping her bag on the table. Listen, I need to know what's going on. Daniel disappeared. His office is gone. Accounts are frozen, I'm locked out of everything, and no one is calling me back. You need to tell me what he's doing. Can he legally do this? He didn't sit, just opened a slim blue folder and slid it toward her. What's this? The packet he sent me 6 weeks ago. She blinked. He sent you something? Andrew nodded. By courier, hand-delivered, notarized. She opened the folder and started thumbing through. Documents, timelines, property records, scanned letters. Then she hit the prenup, the one she forgot she signed, back when she thought prenups were just some romantic formality for Daniel's peace of mind. She remembered signing it while sipping a mimosa in her bathrobe on the morning of their small backyard wedding. Whatever keeps you from panicking, she'd teased. She never actually read it. Now Andrew was pointing to a clause halfway down the page, highlighted in yellow. Section 7B, in the event of confirmed extramarital affairs or public incidents leading to reputational harm of either party, the wronged party reserves full right to initiate irrevocable asset separation without prior mediation. She frowned. Okay, but that's vague. He turned the page. Attached are the affidavits from guests at the party, he said. 3 separate statements. One of them includes a photo, time-stamped, of you pulling away from Daniel and making the dog comment. Her face flushed. That's ridiculous. It was a joke. Then there's this, Andrew interrupted, sliding over another page. The audio recording. He clipped it from the security camera on the host's property. Includes your voice, the laughter, his response. It's all very clear. She stared at the page like it had personally slapped her. People recorded it. Daniel requested access from the host the next day, legally, got it in writing. Then he backed it up and added it to this file. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Andrew sighed, took off his glasses. He built this like a portfolio. Not just for divorce, for strategy. He didn't just want to leave you, he wanted a clean exit, no drama, no battles. She pushed the folder away. This isn't fair. He's punishing me over a stupid party joke? He raised an eyebrow. You sure it's just about the party? He tapped the final page. It was a transcript, not from that night, from a voicemail, her voice, breathy, nervous. Hey babe, just checking to see if your wife's out tonight. I'll sneak out the back again. The date, 4 months ago. The name of the recipient, a burner line. Daniel had retrieved the voicemail through a subpoena request, filed before the party, months before. She stood up abruptly. This is insane. How can he do this? Andrew leaned forward, voice even. You gave him the knife. He just learned how to sharpen it. She felt her chest burning now, rage mixing with confusion. What about the house, the car? I have rights. He opened another folder. The house was transferred into a trust last year. You signed off on it when you signed the kitchen renovation papers. The LLC on that file. That was the trust vehicle. He buried it inside a renovation line item. She backed up like the chair might bite her. Wait, the trust owns the house? Andrew nodded. And the trust doesn't list me? Correct. It lists Daniel and one beneficiary, undisclosed. Could be a niece, a nephew, or a new partner. Legally, he's not obligated to say. Her rage turned cold, not because she didn't understand, but because now she did. She'd been walking around thinking he was wounded, licking his ego, maybe licking his wounds. But no, he'd been setting charges for a quiet detonation, and she'd triggered them with a joke about a dog. I can fight this, she said, though her voice cracked. Andrew didn't argue. He just looked at her with that flat expression attorneys get when they already know how the fight ends. You can, but he's already 3 steps ahead. And if I had to guess, he closed the folder. He doesn't want revenge. He just wants distance. She turned away, gripping the table edge so hard her knuckles turned white. You're saying it's over. No, he said quietly. I'm saying you ended it. He just made it official. It started subtly, just enough to pass as coincidence. The book club group text that usually pinged every Tuesday with a new wine pairing suggestion? Silent. The Pilates instructor who used to send her gentle nudges for the Thursday class? Nothing. She figured maybe people were traveling, busy, caught up in school stuff or whatever suburban distraction made adults forget to be decent. But by Friday, when her text to Emily showed read with no reply and her call to Mina went straight to voicemail, the coincidence cracked. She scrolled through the garden party photo album on Facebook, the one Cheryl always uploaded with embarrassing candids and overly filtered couple shots. It was gone. Not private, deleted, not archived, vanished. A thread of comments from a few nights ago. What a fun night. Gorgeous lighting. Erased. That same evening she logged into Instagram. Daniel's account? Deactivated. His name didn't come up, not even in tagged photos. But here's the thing. Daniel didn't even like social media, used it once every few months to post a sunset or a blurry plate of seafood. He thought filters were optical lies. Yet now, even his faint digital footprint had been scrubbed. She opened her own profile, clicked on the oldest post from their 10th anniversary, a picture of them laughing in matching raincoats in Bar Harbor. Drenched and happy, she had tagged him. His name was now blank, not username change, not account private, just a username no longer exists. She went to their wedding album, opened the folder, 56 photos. Only 38 were still there. She scrolled through the remaining ones. Daniel's face, missing. Cropped. In one, a groomsman was awkwardly center frame where she remembered Daniel had been. In another, just her hand holding a glass of champagne. The one of them dancing during their first song, blurred, barely recognizable. She opened the file info, last modified yesterday. She slammed the laptop shut. This wasn't some glitch. Someone had edited him out. Or more precisely, he had edited himself out. The next morning, she tried reaching out to Cheryl, the hostess of the party. No response. She called Jenna twice, then a third time. Voicemail. On the fourth try, Jenna finally texted back, "I'm not getting involved. Please respect that." She stared at the words. Not getting involved? In what exactly? By Sunday, she checked the shared calendar app they'd used for years to manage errands, dinners, vet visits. It used to show Daniel's reminders. Buy filter for furnace, dentist apti Thurs. Call your sister back. Now the calendar was empty. All his entries. Deleted. Even the recurring one he never missed. Sailboat oil change. Monthly. Gone. The boat. She raced to the dock app, the one that stored their mooring info and maintenance schedules. The account had been transferred. Her login no longer worked. Panicked, she walked down to the marina herself. Small-town docks never change. Same rusted ladders, same chain-smoked harbor manager who'd known them for years. She tried to act casual. "Hey, have you seen Daniel around? Just wondering if he brought the wave dancer in recently." The guy scratched his neck, looked her over. "Yeah, about 2 weeks ago. Pulled in right after dawn. Had a woman with him. They looked happy." He smirked like he was trying to soften the blow. Didn't wave, that's not like him, but he looked real peaceful. She nodded, too stiffly, turned and walked back to her car without thanking him. A woman. Of course there was a woman. That night, she opened her laptop again and typed his full name into Google. Quotes around it, scanned every result. A couple of board announcements from his firm. Obituaries with similar names, a paywalled mention in a local sailing newsletter, nothing recent, no photos, no updates. She clicked over to LinkedIn. Profile gone, not deactivated, dismantled. Her thumb hovered over her phone screen. Group text. The dinner girls, Mina, Cheryl, Jenna, Rita. She typed, "Can someone please tell me what the hell is going on? Did I do something? Why is everyone treating me like I'm toxic?" Seen. No replies. Then Rita, finally. "This is uncomfortable for all of us. You embarrassed him, then cheated on him, then laughed about it. You made your bed, sweetie." She dropped the phone like it burned. It clattered against the floor and slid under the ottoman. She sat perfectly still. It wasn't just about Daniel disappearing. This was coordinated. This was surgical. He hadn't just left her. He'd pulled the wires from every connection point, friends, photos, routines, documents, and left her in the shell of a life she thought was shared. Even their golden retriever's vet account had a new contact listed under owner. She checked. It wasn't her. She called the vet's office. "Hi, I'm sorry, but we have Daniel listed as the sole guardian for Boomer now," the receptionist said cheerfully. "Do you want us to add you back?" She whispered, "No." Then she hung up and began checking every account she could remember, one by one. Everything was paid. Everything was clean. Everything was gone. And the world kept spinning without her. She didn't pack much. Just her overnight bag, sunglasses, and a woven scarf Daniel always said made her look expensively mysterious, whatever that meant. It was October now, and the air around the lake would be crisp, quiet, maybe too quiet. Still, she needed space, time to think. She told herself she was going there to breathe, to clear her head, to escape the growing silence of her phone and inbox. But deep down, she was going for one reason only, to find a piece of him that hadn't vanished. The drive took 3 hours. She didn't play music, just watched the road, imagined him already there. Maybe he'd be pacing the dock, that sad little beanie on his head, that stupid thermos of mint tea he thought cured everything. Maybe he'd see her car and feel something, guilt, nostalgia, even pity, anything but this cold, surgical void. She turned off the main highway, onto the narrow gravel path that led through the pines. The gate appeared ahead, a black iron structure Daniel had installed after a raccoon got into the garbage and chewed through a 20-pound bag of kibble. She rolled down the window, punched in the gate code like muscle memory. 1997, the year they bought the house. Nothing happened. She tried again, slower. 1997, a flat beep, then a mechanical voice. Access denied. Her heart rate doubled. She checked her phone. No bars. The call box next to the keypad had a new logo now. Sable Lock Security, not their old firm, not the company whose invoice she used to sign every July without reading. She squinted at the small, freshly printed sticker on the post. For gate access, please contact primary owner. She blinked, stepped out of the car, walked around to the side, half hoping maybe something had rusted, that the gate could be jiggled open with enough pressure. It was solid. No give, no squeak, no welcome. Her hands were trembling now. She got back in the car, reversed down the gravel road, then turned onto a dirt service trail they'd used once when the main road flooded. She followed it through the trees until it spit her out behind the guest house, an older building they never bothered to renovate. She parked, hiked up the slope, and reached the back door. Locked, of course. She circled the property like a burglar, checking every door, every window. No signs of forced entry, no damage, just upgrades, smart locks, surveillance cameras tucked discreetly under the roofline, a fresh coat of sealant on the dock wood. The house looked better than ever, and she couldn't get in. By the time she made it to the front steps, she was panting, not from exertion, from disbelief. She yanked open the mailbox out of habit, hoping maybe there'd be a note, a bill, something, but the key didn't fit. She crouched down and stared into the slot. Empty, sealed from the inside. She pulled out her phone again, climbed the small hill to find a signal, and opened the county clerk's website. Searched the property records. There it was. Parcel 7829LH. Current owner, Claremont Preservation Trust. Her name, not listed. Beneath it, the deed history. Transferred from Daniel R. Callan to Claremont Preservation Trust, 11 months ago. She cross-referenced it with her calendar. That week, she'd been in Palm Springs with the girls. Spa trip, cocktails. That's when Daniel had insisted she relax, take time for herself. He'd handled the paperwork for the contractor, told her to just sign the packet from the renovation guy and enjoy her weekend. She'd signed it on a poolside lounger, one hand wrapped around a frozen margarita. It wasn't a contractor packet. It was the trust transfer. She sat on the porch swing, his porch swing, and stared out at the glassy lake. The sun was starting to dip. It should have been beautiful, but it felt hostile, like even the wind had been told she didn't belong anymore. Her phone buzzed, a voicemail notification. From Cheryl. She scrambled to listen. Hey, I heard you were up at the lake house. Just a heads up, Daniel's asked us not to get involved. He says you're not authorized to be on the property anymore. Look, I love you, but I'm not jeopardizing my friendship with him over this. Please don't put me in the middle. The message ended. No breath, no sympathy, just a compliance notice dressed as concern. She tried the front door one more time, out of instinct. Still locked, still not hers. That night, she booked a room at the Lakeside Inn 10 miles away. The room was cold, despite the thermostat. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, shivering even under the covers. At 2:17 a.m., she went back and refreshed the property site again. Still not hers, still not changing. She wasn't being pushed out. She had already been written out, and somehow she never saw the pen in his hand. It was the silence that did it, not the silence of the house. She'd grown used to that, not the silence of her phone that had become a dull background hum, like an appliance left running. No, it was the silence inside her own name, the way it no longer echoed when she said it aloud, the way no one seemed to say it at all anymore. When the editor from Valley Living reached out, she said yes before she even heard the pitch. We're doing a piece on resilience, local stories, second acts, the email said. That was enough. She told herself it would be about healing, perspective, reclaiming her voice. But deep down, she wanted to be seen again. The shoot was scheduled for a Tuesday morning at her house, not the lake house, of course. Just her place now, the one-bedroom condo Daniel had never set foot in. She'd bought fresh flowers, arranged the couch pillows, even wore the sweater Daniel once called cozy but classy. The interviewer arrived with a photographer in tow. Young woman, early 30s, smelled like lavender and confidence. She complimented the decor, said it was minimalist but soulful. It made her laugh, a brittle sound, like a hinge that hadn't been used in months. They talked for an hour, mostly small things. Books she liked, the charity auction she was still helping organize, her new yoga routine. Then came the inevitable. So, the interviewer said, clicking her pen, the garden party. She smiled tightly. God, that night. I mean, I've told people this 100 times. It was a joke. A stupid joke. I was trying to be funny. You know how couples tease each other? The woman nodded politely. Of course. Banter. It happens. Exactly. I mean, I didn't expect Daniel to take it so personally. He always had a dry sense of humor. I thought he'd roll with it. Instead, well, she gestured vaguely, tried to chuckle. Instead, he vanished like a magician. Poof! Exit stage left. The interviewer smiled. And what about the dog line? She rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. I said I'd rather kiss my dog. It's not like I said I'd rather kiss my lover. I mean, if I had one, which I don't. She laughed, too loudly. The interviewer tilted her head. Right, speaking of which, how long had the affair been going on? Silence. The air in the room stilled. Even the photographer paused, her lens lowering slightly. She blinked. I'm sorry? The interviewer didn't flinch. The rumor is there was an affair. Several of Daniel's acquaintances confirmed he had evidence. One even mentioned a voicemail, "We just want your side." Her breath caught. That's not I mean, that's a personal matter, and honestly, I thought this was about rebuilding. It is, the woman said calmly. But to rebuild, people usually acknowledge what was broken. There it was, the slow gutting of her narrative, the final nail through her carefully positioned version of events. She shifted in her seat, forced another smile. I'm not going to litigate my marriage in a lifestyle magazine. Of course, the woman said, scribbling something in her notebook. Off the record, though, do you regret the joke? She hesitated. For the first time, she didn't know what to say. The interview ended 20 minutes later. The photographer thanked her, took one last candid near the window. Then they were gone. That night, she opened a bottle of red and drank most of it while refreshing the magazine's homepage every hour. The feature wasn't going up yet, they said next week, but the anticipation throbbed in her bones like an infection. A week later, it dropped. Front page, her face, not her best angle, underlit and a little puffy. The headline in bold serif type, wife's joke backfires as husband erases her from existence. Below it, a pull quote, it wasn't like I said I'd rather kiss my lover. She dropped the phone, bent over. Her stomach knotted so tight she had to grip the counter. She didn't leave her condo for 2 days. When she finally did, it was to walk Boomer, or try to. But when she got to the park, she saw the flyer. Meet Boomer, our newest rescue pup. There he was, her dog, sitting next to a local family in a glossy newsletter pinned to the community board. The adoption center had hosted a meet and greet. Daniel had signed over ownership weeks ago. She blinked at the photo. Boomer looked happy, rested, sitting beside a kid in a hoodie, tongue out, tail mid-wag. She read the caption again. Boomer has adjusted beautifully to his new life after being surrendered by his previous owner. Sometimes change is the best gift. A stranger walked past and muttered, "Isn't that the woman from that article?" Another one whispered, not quietly enough, "She's the one with the dog joke, right?" She turned, stared at them. They didn't look back, didn't need to. Because now she wasn't just the woman who lost her husband, she was a punchline with teeth. And everyone else was in on the joke. The house looked the same. Trimmed hedges, faded wind chimes, and the old basketball hoop still sagging above the garage. Net long gone. She hadn't been here in years, not since Daniel's father's funeral, where she stood awkwardly beside him in black heels that sank into the cemetery grass. Back then, his brother Mark had hugged her tight and whispered, "We're family now, no matter what." She'd believed him. Now, standing on the front porch with her coat clutched tight against a wind that felt sharper than it should have, she didn't feel like family. She felt like a solicitor. Mark opened the door, wearing cargo shorts, a hoodie, and the same cautious expression Daniel used to have when people brought up politics at dinner. He blinked when he saw her. "Wow. Hi. You look like I've aged 10 years and 2 months?" He didn't argue. They stood there for a moment in the sort of silence that weighs more than it should. "Can I come in?" she asked finally. He hesitated, then opened the door wider. The inside was clean but cluttered. Socks draped over the back of a recliner, sports radio humming low in the background. She sat on the edge of the couch like someone waiting for a bad diagnosis. "I'm sorry to just show up like this," she said. "I didn't know who else to talk to. No one's responding, and I know you and Daniel." "He told me not to get involved," Mark cut in, gentle but firm. She blinked. "Right, I figured, but still, I just need to talk to him, or, if not that, just get a message to him." Mark sat across from her, arms folded. "You don't think he knows what you'd say?" She shook her head. "It's not like that. I didn't expect it to go this far. He's cut me out of everything. Friends, the lake house, even Boomer. I saw a picture of my dog in someone else's arms, like he'd never lived in my house. Daniel deleted himself, and then he deleted me." Mark didn't move, didn't blink, just waited. She swallowed. "Please, just let him know I'm sorry, that I didn't mean to humiliate him. It wasn't supposed to be cruel. I was trying to make people laugh. I didn't realize how deep the cracks had gotten." Mark leaned forward. "He forgave you." She stared. "What?" "He told me to tell you that, if you ever came, that he forgave you, that he's not angry anymore. He doesn't hate you. He just doesn't want to carry you anymore." Her breath caught. "Carry me?" Mark nodded. He said for a long time he thought that was marriage, shouldering someone else's chaos, even when it bruises you, even when it dulls your life. But now he's done. Said the minute you used that dog line, and the laughter hit his spine like a slap, he felt weightless. Not sad, not angry, just done. She clenched her jaw. "What does that even mean? He doesn't want to carry me? I was his wife." Mark sighed. "Exactly." She felt it then, the last tether snapping, because that's what she'd always counted on with Daniel, his endless capacity for patience, his ability to quietly wait things out. She used to joke that he was unshakable. Now she realized that wasn't a compliment. It was a warning. She stood slowly, hands shaking. "So that's it?" Mark shrugged. "It means you don't exist in his world now, and he's okay with that." She walked to the door like her limbs didn't belong to her. Outside, the wind had picked up. Leaves blew across the driveway like fleeing witnesses. She turned back one last time. "If you talk to him, tell him I'm still here." Mark looked at her, not unkindly, but with a sort of quiet resignation. "I don't think he's checking anymore." She got into her car and sat for 10 full minutes before starting it. In the rearview mirror, Mark had already shut the door. The porch light clicked off a few seconds later. No audience, no pity, no parting words. Just the sound of an engine that didn't care if she went forward or reversed. And for the first time, she realized she wasn't trying to get him back. She just wanted him to still see her, but he didn't. And maybe he never would again. The invitation had arrived in a pale blue envelope with gold trim, same style as always, from Cheryl and Greg. The annual spring garden party. Theme this year, golden hour glamour. Same house, same catered shrimp skewers, same playlist probably. She stared at the RSVP for days before finally clicking yes, telling herself it would be an act of closure, or redemption, or both. She hadn't been back to that house since that night, since Daniel spun her on the patio, leaned in for a kiss, and she had opened her mouth to unleash the sentence that detonated her entire life. The memory haunted her in pieces now. Sunlight through champagne glasses, fake laughter, her voice louder than she remembered it, sharper than she meant it, the stunned silence that followed, the faces, Daniel's reply. Then the slow, brutal walk off the stage of their shared life. But maybe enough time had passed. Maybe people had forgotten. She arrived early, not out of enthusiasm, more like strategic discomfort. Easier to slide into a room before it fills than make a scene at the door. Cheryl greeted her with a brittle smile and a plastic cup of Prosecco. "So good to see you," Cheryl said, too brightly. "You look well." "You too," she lied. The garden hadn't changed. Same fairy lights in the trees, same strategically placed lanterns along the patio steps, even the same playlist, retro soul, light funk, some Sinatra remixed with EDM, because Greg fancied himself a tastemaker. But the warmth she remembered, real or imagined, was gone. People greeted her with that soft professional voice you use when someone from HR shows up at a funeral. Polite but cold, a nod too formal, a smile too thin. She tried to mingle, drifted past the drinks table, made small talk about weather patterns and some Netflix show she hadn't watched. But the circle never opened for her. The clusters of conversation remained tight, sealed like cell membranes. She ended up standing alone by the edge of the dance floor, the exact spot. Her eyes flicked to the smooth stone tiles where Daniel had once held her hand and spun her. There. That was where he stood. That was where she pulled away. That was where she said it, and that just 6 steps to the right was where he ended it. The words echoed again in her head like they were written in the cracks of the stone. Funny, he's the only one you're not cheating on. It should have made her angry, should have stoked the dying embers of her pride, but all she felt was cold. 2 guests walked past her, young couple, probably Cheryl's new neighbors. They didn't see her at first. The woman leaned in close to the man and whispered, "That's her, from the dog comment thing." He glanced at her with a quick darted look and said nothing. They didn't stop, they didn't smile, just walked past like she was part of the scenery. She turned slowly and looked back at the group. Laughter rang out from the far end of the yard. Someone had spilled a drink. Greg was clapping like it was a stand-up set, and for the first time, she realized she could walk straight through the middle of that group, and not one of them would pause to let her in. She wasn't disliked. She was irrelevant. She sipped her Prosecco. It had gone warm. Across the yard, Cheryl was pretending not to look at her while talking to a new couple with perfect teeth and matching monogrammed wine glasses. She used to be part of that. Now she was a reminder of something uncomfortable, of something loud, of a man who walked away so completely it made everyone question what they might be ignoring in their own lives. She moved toward the catering table to busy her hands, but even the shrimp skewers looked defensive, lined up like soldiers under heat lamps. "Hey," someone said behind her. She turned. It was Rita, the only one who'd ever texted her honestly after the fallout. "You came. Guess I'm a sucker for second chances." Rita nodded. "You know, people still talk about it." "I figured. It's become a thing. The joke. The way he walked out. It's like this urban legend now." She laughed bitterly. "So I'm a punchline." "No, you're the cautionary tale." Then Rita patted her on the shoulder and walked away. The music changed, some slowed-down remix of an old Marvin Gaye track. Couples drifted onto the dance floor. She stayed rooted to the edge, watching from outside the glow of the string lights. A group selfie was being taken across the patio. She wasn't invited to join. She checked her phone. No new messages. She scrolled to her favorites. Daniel's name was still saved at the top. She didn't call, didn't text, just stared. And for the first time, truly understood, he wasn't just gone. He had rewritten the chapter, and she was now just a footnote in someone else's story. The night air was crisp, but not sharp, the kind of cool that settles into your bones without warning. Her heels clicked faintly against the pavement as she walked back toward her car. One of the last left on the street. The party behind her still glowed in the distance, all warm laughter and forgettable music, but it may as well have been a separate planet. She didn't say goodbye to anyone she hadn't needed to. No one noticed her leave. Her car sat under a crooked street lamp, its windshield speckled with pollen and dust. She opened her purse, fumbled for the keys, and then froze. Across the street, the cafe door chimed. She looked up. Daniel. There he was. Tanned. Leaner. Gray at the temples, but healthy. Confident. There was a lightness to the way he moved, the easy rhythm of a man who'd cut something heavy out of his life and never looked back. He was laughing, laughing, with a woman beside him. Not flashy, not young, but striking, natural, the kind of woman who didn't try too hard because she didn't need to. On her other side walked a teenage boy, maybe 15, 16, taller than both of them, animated, gesturing as he talked. They looked like a family, not newly minted, not awkward, worn in, like time had been good to them. She couldn't move. Daniel turned slightly, caught a glimpse of her across the street. The moment their eyes met, her lungs forgot how to work. She stepped forward, mouth dry. Something between ache and instinct moved her legs. He noticed, paused for a breath. For a second she thought maybe he'd cross the street, ask how she was doing, acknowledge that they'd once built a life together. Maybe he'd even remember the way she used to fall asleep holding his hand on long car rides, the stupid inside jokes, the nights they held each other during storms, thinking the windows would shatter. But then she saw his posture, not cold, not hostile, just still, like he was waiting for her to say it. She opened her mouth. No sound came out, so she mouthed the word, please. He crossed, not quickly, not dramatically, just calmly. When he stopped in front of her, he was close enough to smell the coffee on his breath, see the tiny scar above his eyebrow, the one she used to trace when he was falling asleep. His eyes were clear, steady, free of anger. I'm not cruel, he said, voice low, meant for her alone. You made a joke. He let it hang there for just a beat, then added, softer, I made a choice. Then he turned. No dramatic pause, no backward glance. He walked back to the woman and the boy. The woman reached for his hand like she'd done it 1,000 times. The boy, casual, unguarded, looked up at Daniel and asked, Dad, are we still doing the movie? Daniel smiled. Yeah, we've got time. They walked down the sidewalk together, lit by the soft gold of the street lamp, disappearing into a world she no longer had access to. She staggered back a step, leaning against her car now, knees weak, throat tight, vision blurring not from tears, but from something colder, deeper, final. He hadn't just left. He'd rewritten himself without her. The joke she'd once tossed like a grenade for cheap laughs had become the epitaph of their marriage. And he'd walked off the battlefield clean, no wreckage, no smoke, just peace. She slid into the driver's seat, numb, sat there a long time, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel like it might still remember the route to the life she used to have. But it didn't. It had new destinations now, just like him.